Have you ever wondered why there are so many different languages in the world? Why can't we all just understand each other? The answer might be found in an ancient story, a story about a tower that was meant to reach the heavens. This is the story of the Tower of Babel. Our story begins in a world that was fresh and new, in the early days after the Great Flood. Humanity was starting over. The descendants of Noah's family began to spread out, and as they journeyed, they found a beautiful, wide-open plain in a land called Shinar. It was here, in this fertile valley, that they decided to settle down. But their settlement wasn't just about building homes, it was about building a legacy. At this time, something remarkable was true. Everyone on earth spoke the same language and used the same words. This unity allowed for incredible collaboration. They could share ideas, work together seamlessly, and dream together. And they shared one very big, very ambitious dream. A dream that would echo through human history. They decided to build a city, and at its heart, a tower so colossal, so impossibly tall, that its top would scrape the sky, reaching into the heavens themselves. But what was the real reason behind this monumental project? It wasn't about protection or creating a better life. The Bible tells us their motivation was crystal clear. They said, "Come, let us build ourselves a city, and a tower with its top in the heavens, and let us make a name for ourselves, lest we be dispersed over the face of the whole earth." This was about fame. It was about human glory, power, and defiance. God had commanded them to be fruitful, multiply, and fill the earth. But they had a different plan. They wanted to cluster together, to concentrate their power and build a monument to their own greatness, their own strength, their own unity, a unity that excluded God. So, the work began. The plain of Shinar buzzed with activity. They were innovative. Instead of using stone and mortar, they learned to bake bricks until they were hard and used tar for mortar. The air filled with the sounds of construction, the shouts of workers, the clang of tools, and the stacking of countless bricks. Day by day, week by week, the tower climbed higher. It was a stunning display of human ingenuity and cooperation. The structure grew from a foundation into a shadow that stretched across the land, a testament to what humanity could achieve when united in a single purpose. From the ground, it must have seemed like they were succeeding, like nothing could stop them from reaching their goal. But they were forgetting one crucial thing: heaven was watching. The Bible says that the Lord came down to see the city and the tower that the children of man had built. Now, it's not that God was surprised by this. He wasn't threatened by the height of a man-made structure. A tower reaching the heavens. To an infinite God, that's like a child's sandcastle on the shore of a vast ocean. No, it wasn't the tower's height that concerned him. It was the heart behind it. It was the pride, the arrogance, and the rebellion driving the project. Think about it. A united humanity, working with a single mind, is an incredibly powerful force, but God saw where this was heading, when that unity is fueled by a desire to glorify oneself, to make a name for oneself, and to deliberately disobey God's command. It becomes a dangerous path. It's a path that leads away from humility and dependence on God, and towards self-idolatry. God looked at their work and said, "Behold, they are one people, and they have all one language, and this is only the beginning of what they will do. And now nothing that they propose to do will be impossible for them." This statement is incredible. It's a recognition of humanity's immense potential. But he also saw that this potential, when misdirected by pride, would only lead to greater and greater acts of rebellion and ultimately, self-destructs. The tower was just the beginning. What would they build next? What boundaries would they cross? So, God's intervention wasn't an act of anger or jealousy. It was an act of mercy. A loving course correction to save humanity from its own runaway ambition. So, what did he do? He didn't send a flood or fire. He didn't strike the tower down. He did something much more subtle, yet profoundly effective. He came down and confused their language, so that they could no longer understand one another's speech. Imagine the scene. One moment, a foreman is shouting for more bricks. The next, his words are gibberish to the crew below. A worker asks for water, but the person next to him hears a request for tar. Communication, the very foundation of their project, dissolved into chaos. Frustration mounted. Arguments erupted. The seamless cooperation that had built the tower so high now became a source of division and suspicion. The work ground to a halt. The dream was shattered. The magnificent tower, a symbol of their unity and pride, was left unfinished, a monument to their confusion. Because they could no longer work together, the people did exactly what they had tried so hard to avoid. They scattered. They broke off into smaller groups, finding others who spoke the same new language as them. And these groups moved away from Shinar, spreading out across the face of the earth, just as God had originally intended. The city and its unfinished tower were given a name that would forever serve as a reminder of what happened there, Babel, which sounds like the Hebrew word for confused. But this story from the book of Genesis is so much more than an explanation for different languages. It's a profound lesson about the human condition. It's a mirror held up to our own hearts. How often do we try to build our own towers? We do it in our careers, in our relationships, in our pursuit of wealth or fame. We try to make a name for ourselves, building our lives on a foundation of our own strength, our own plans, and our own glory. We think that if we can just achieve this or acquire that, we'll be secure, we'll be significant. But the story of Babel teaches us that any project built on human pride, without acknowledging God, is ultimately built on unstable ground. It might look impressive for a while, but eventually, it leads to confusion, division, and falls short. The story isn't meant to discourage us from dreaming big or working together. It's a reminder of who should be at the center of those dreams. When our ambition is to glorify God, not ourselves, and when our unity is found in Him, then our potential is truly limitless in the best possible way. He doesn't want to crush our plans, He wants to elevate them. He wants to be the architect of our lives, guiding us to build something with eternal value, something far greater and more meaningful than any temporary tower we could build on our own. So, the next time you feel that urge to build your own legacy, to make a name for yourself, remember the unfinished tower on the plain of Shinar. Remember that God's gentle redirection, even when it feels like confusion, is always an act of love. It's His way of calling us away from the crumbling foundations of our own pride and back to the solid rock of His purpose for our lives. The story of Babel isn't just about why we speak different languages, it's about the one universal language of the heart that God truly understands, a heart of humility, trust, and love for Him. Thanks for watching. If this story resonated with you, consider subscribing for more content that explores the deep truths of our world. See you next time.